All right. Oh, this is the project that we want to use for our JavaScript. And first, we need to deal with our HTML and CSS before we jump into JavaScript. But what is application all about? Because everything you want to do, you need to understand what you are trying to solve there like that. And what this thing is there for is just for splitting, for calculating the amount each people are going to pay. For example, you go to a restaurant with your friends, and that restaurant, all of you eat, and they give you the bill. For example, 142,000, and they say you are going to give them a tip. So, how much are the other people are going to pay? Like, what are you guys going to contribute together to complete the entire money? So this is what the application is all about. For example, here the bill is 142.55 dollar like that, and the tip is 15%, and that 5 people. So here, as you can see, for each person, your tip is $4 like that, and for each one of you there, since you are five, so each person are going to contribute this 32.79 dollar. You need to create this same, not that you have to be doing all the calculation in your head. Once you input the bill amount, you give us the tip percentage, and you give us the number of people, then you see what each person have to pay based on the bill and the tips that is selected there. But before we start getting into the JavaScript part, we need to undo the HTML and the CSS. And as you can see from the design here like that, so if you look at the design, you can see that this is going to be our page. So this is going to be the HTML, the body there. And inside the body, as you can see, we have another container there, because you see that the content are not getting to the edge of the browser once you get to a specific screen size. And inside this container, as you can see, we have the heading or the title or the logo, depending on what you want to use there. But the way it is there, it looks like it's a logo, or I think the file is there already, so we just need to put the logo at that place. And apart from that, we have this major area where we're going to be having this container. So inside this container, as you can see too, there are two sections. So we have the left section, which is where you input all the necessary value, and we have the right section where the computation is happening there like that. So inside the white box, we have these two container inside it, and on the left you have another container too, because these are multiple items combined together. Again too, there are multiple things here. So this is container on its own like that, but inside that container too, you still have a nested container that is grouping all these one together, because once you want to use your flex or grid, you need to group them so that you'll be able to adjust the stuff. But if I don't want to create nested element, I can use grid to do it. But we're going to be creating nested element because it's quite easier to understand, compare, or start doing span. If you want to do that, it means everything will be inside the grid, but this one is going to span. As you can see, it's spanning two more this thing, so that it can provide but what this one, they are 1 1 1, but the one at the top, if you want to use grid, but we're not going to be using grid for this outer container. We're going to use flex. Then inside that flex, we have this heading text. Then inside it, we now have the container, which is grid, that owns all this one. Again too, down here we have the container, and this container is holding the label, and at the same time is holding the input. But if you look at inside the input, there is this icon there. We are going to see how you can put something inside, even though that thing you cannot put it at that place, but with the position property that I'm going to be explaining, you can move any elements to wherever you want on the page there. For on the left side or on the right side, we don't really have much like that. So we have this container, then after this container we have this button there. And the reason why I'm separating like this is because I want this one here to be at the top while this button is down. So once you group all this one together, as flex, you just see them as one item, not separate. But assuming you group this one separately, you group this one separately like this without the other one, and you group this one too, it will be hard to just move these two at the top why this one is done. You can still do it, but you are going to be doing a lot of work like that. But once you group them, Flex is going to see it as just one item. So it will move all of them, or it will space them just as if it is one item that is there, since you put them in a container. So here too, as you can see, you can put this one too in their own separate container if you want, or you just use the BR, but I think I'm going to be putting them in another container so that it will be easier to work with there like that. So this is what we need to do in our HTML. Then after that, we now style them with the CSS. So this is what the process you always do first. You look at what they are trying to do. How can you bring them together so that it will work with your CSS property that you want to use? Because the way you are doing this in is depending on the property you want to use. If I want to use some other property that I explain here now, like the grid, and I don't want to be doing nested stuff, I don't need to be putting this nested one. This is the only container I will just add is this outer one. But because I want to use flex, so I have to group them in a way that the flex will be able to work for me there like that. So this is how this thing is there like that. So let's go back into our HTML. So as you can see, I already arranged all the necessary file that we need for the project. So the name of the project is tip calculator. So inside the tip calculator, as you can see, in the images we are going to be using, they are there. So like the dollar icon, the person icon, and the logo. So this is the logo at the top. So this is the dollar, and this is the person down here. So all the icon we need has been given to us there. So we have them. We just need to call them anytime we need it. So index dot copy, from the project, all the text that we need. They already give it to us. But there, as you can see, scrolling up, as you can see all the text. So if I don't want to type them myself, I can quickly copy from here. But most of them, they are just simple text like that. I just leave it there just to explain. Because when you're working with another project from that file, there you are going to be having a lot of things going on there. For example, here, so under the design, as you can see, I'm under the design. So go back, we're going to see all the project that you can work on there, and each one of them come with the asset. As you can see, anytime you see asset, it means it's more than image. So it can give you, this one will give you font and the image. But this project, we are not given any font. But how do you know the font or the size that you are using? Everything is going to be specified under the style guide. So any of the project, you're always going to see this style guide there, which explain what is going on with the styling. As you can see, the color that we are to use for the project, which is this primary color, that's strong cyan. So this is a code, and again for every other color in the project, so very dark cyan and so forth like that. And for the typography, as you can see, the fonts they are using, or the family they are using, is this space mono, which is given to us by going to this link, because Google font is free. So just go there, select the font you want, and you connect it to the page there. And again, for the project, as you can see, say the weight is using a 700. So this style guide will show you everything you need to do under the CSS. But first, let's finish about HTML before we move into the CSS. So the first thing we need to do to generate the basic page structure like that. So I'm going to name it tip calculator, because that's the name of the project. So what are we doing here? So what we are doing is, as you can see, this is the structure of the page. So this is the body. Then inside the body, we have another container that is holding everything. And that container here, I'm going to be calling it the main, because that is the main content on the page. And inside this main content, we have the header section like that. That's where you are going to be having your logo. What's going on? So this is where we are going to be having our logo later on. Then after the side, we now have this section there like that. So we have the section. So or you can just use another element there there. And why do I need this? So it's coming from here. So as you can see, this is the logo. This is what I'm calling the logo, that header. So logo is going to be inside it. Then we have this container, which is what I'm calling section. But inside that section too, as you can see, we have the left and we have the right side of it like that. So inside this section, what I'm just going to have is you can use section or you can use div, depending on how you want to do your selector inside CSS. But here, let me just use div like this and give it a class container there. So inside the div, I will now have two sections. So this section, I'm going to call it the left, like that, and for the other one, I'm going to call it right. You can call it anything you want, but in order for us to be able to select it from CSS, that's why I'm using all these class names so that it will be easier. We just use dot left or dot right or dot container and so forth like that. Since we have a lot of section and div that we're going to be using there like that. So under the left, what do we have? So at the left side, as you can see, we have this there. So at the left side, this is what we have. So let me expand this in a little bit. Yeah, so at the left side, we have this. Then after that, we have this. And after that, we have this. So we're going to pick them one by one like that. So let me just bring this in back and let me remove all of them. And down here, let me use my pen. So here we have this. Then inside this place, we have the label. So this is the label. Then inside the label, we have the input. But input is not that simple. This input is not simple. Why? Because there is something by the side of it, which is the dollar sign. But you know, input, you cannot put anything inside it. There is no way you can put anything inside input. Input is self-closing tag. So any of those self-closing tag, you cannot put anything inside it. But we have a trick that we normally use. The trick there is that this input, we are going to wrap it in another container. That container will be the one that will now own this other extra content along with that input. But you will now make this text or any other content that you want to put on top of input to overlay on it. But how do you do that? You are going to be using something known as positioning property. So here, this is not just the input, this is the container. So inside that container, that's where you now have input. And inside that same container, that's where you have other extra elements you want to put. As you can see my input, you see that it covered up the entire. Don't forget container, they don't have background at all. So what we are going to be doing is to give background to the input. Input will cover up the entire container. But this one will now overlay it on top of that input. And the reason you have to do it like this is because input doesn't allow anything to come inside it because it's a self-closing tag. You cannot put anything inside it. So what we do is that we create a container. Inside that container, we put the element that we want to overlay and along with the input that where we want to overlay. But how do you make element to be on top of another element? What you use is position property, because position property comes with some value that you can use to make you to place one element on top of another element. By default, when you put your element in HTML, they arrange according to the way you type them in your code. So the first element you type will come first, followed by the next element, and so forth like that. But what we want to do here is that we want to be able to place them. So what we need to do, let's create this one, which we are going to call the form container like that. Or let's just say what we want to do here, let me just say control so that it will be easier because we did not use any form like this. So control container. And why do I need to use this control container is the entire box here. This is what I'm calling control container because it's the one that will contain the label and the input like that. So inside this control container, so we need to have a label, and you know the label there is just the bill. Here I want to complete this for me. So the bill like that, and the text there too is bill, which is what we have at the top here. But I told you this down one is not simple. You can't just create it directly like that. So there's a lot of things that needs to be put inside each other. So yeah, after this one, what we need to do is we need to do this control group like this. So I'm calling it control group like that. So inside this control group, we're going to have our image, so which is the image of the dollar that we have there. Complete. So we have the image, so it's coming from images. Then we are no, it's not doing what I asked it to do. Where am I? Am I in the correct files? Because it's bringing something else. Okay, yeah. So we have the images, and then from there we have this icon dollar. Then after this one, that's where you now have the input itself like that. So we're going to be having input is going to be of type text for now. Then the ID is going to be bill. Placeholder is going to be that. So which other thing did they put inside it? This is when the stuff has been filled. But we have a UI for when it is empty. So every of these design that you have, some of them will show you when it is empty, what you need to show there, like that. So let me go back under the design, and as you can see, there is this, let me see, yeah. So as you can see, desktop design empty. So which means this is what you are going to see the first time the stop. Can you see? So by default, it's showing placeholder, so that, which is the same thing as what I'm using for my placeholder. But once it's filled, then whatever you fill inside, that's what is going. This is how the fill value is going to look like, and this is how your placeholder, as you can see, is going to look like. So you have to style it according to that. But right now we're arranging the HTML like that. So what do we have? Under the left, we have the container for the control. So inside this control, we have the label, then we now have the div. And the reason we have to use this div is because we want to overlay this image on top of this input. So save this code, go to the browser. It's not going to be like that, but through CSS later on, you are going to see that everything is perfectly arranged. So let me go into localhost 5500 like that. So we have the project and we have these tips, or let me just enter project straight forward so that it will bring it out for me. So see, if you don't mention any stuff, it will just show everything for you. Then from there, can you see, you can never put anything inside input, but you look at it, that container is not showing. So input later on will make it full, then we'll now place the dollar on top of it using what I talked about, which is position. We call it position. So even though I'm saying overlay, but by the time you know about it, we don't call it overlay. We say you are positioning the element on top of another element. So like that. So, but because I've not explained it before, that's why I'm calling it overlay, so that you grab what I'm trying to talk about. So if you look at it, we are done with this part. So we are done with this part. The next part we need to work on is this one, which is still the same thing there like that. So if you look at this one too, you see that it's followed the same pattern there like that. So we have the control container. So inside the control container, we have the label. Then inside this again, we now have another container, and inside that container, that's where we now have all these the button. So we are going to skip this custom because this custom is advanced, or you might actually come back to it later on, because once you click on it, it changes the element that you have here to another thing, which is going to be input. Custom means you want to impute the custom percentage. These are the common one, but in case you want to insert something like 20, you want to insert like so once you click on this custom, it will change to input, and you now be able to impute the custom one you want. But here we are not going to be using custom. For now, we'll just change it to maybe around that 75. But later on, we're going to be, because I don't want to do a lot of too much of things on this project and it to start looking somehow like that. So it's better to start small and you grow on it than just to jam pack everything together. So this is what we need to do for this section. So that's what we need to do. So look at it. Yes, so another control needs to be created there like that. So here, and if you want, you can always drop a comment for yourself like that. Let me remove this in so that I'll be able to type. So you can always drop a comment for yourself if you want. On top of each one of them, you can just so build inputs like that. So this is a comment. In the HTML, this is how you drop comment. It's always good when you started having a lot of elements you are putting together. So you can quickly, so anybody, even if this thing is collapsed, they don't need to check what is inside before they know that this is B section and this is tip section and so forth like that. So yeah, let me just say B section and tip section. So for the tip, what we want to have here, we're going to be having this too much this AI, but let me just accept what is giving me, and if it's not, so yeah, we have 50. Yes, you can see now. So it brings the input for that one, but I said I will not be doing this custom for now. So we're not going to be doing custom. Inside that custom, once you click, it change to input. But here, what we'll do is to make it 70% like that. So close this. Something is not closed here. So from there, close this div. So save. So look at it. So under this container here, we have the select tip. So, and again, we now have all the options. So this option, and again too, that's something we are going to be doing with all these buttons later on. because any one of them you select, this is not the way it's going to look like. So this is how it's going to, any one of them that is active, can you see the background will be different from the one that is not selected. So it will be easier for us to be able to target them later on by putting a class. Again, to this is what we're going to be using our query selector all. As you can see, they have the same class. And I want to select all of them from JavaScript, not just one of them. So we're going to use query selector all to pick all of them, because you know you want to do the same thing on all of them. The difference is just the value that is there like that. So what do we want to do? So we are done with this section too, like that. The next section is this side, which looks like what we have at the top. You know, we've designed something like that already there. So what we just need to do is just to quickly copy it like that, because there's no time. We don't don't need to be wasting our time on typing all this. Normally, I suppose I prefer the code, but me, I love to show you the process, because that's how you learn, not just bring the code and start explaining them line by line. Doesn't make sense. So yeah, we have number of people. So we have number of people like this. So again, the ID here is going to be number of people. Complete it for me. Number of complete it. People like this. So let me change this one too. So num of people like that. So what do we have there? By default, that and two should be 0. So this side is going to be 0, but the icon is different. So the icon is different. So icon is going to be icon person, and save. And I think, as you can see now, we have them, but it's not looking like the way it's supposed to be. So through CSS later on, everything will come in place. So after we are done with the left section, the next thing we need to focus on is the right section. And what we need to do here, so we need to have this container like that. Then inside this container, you are going to be having all these other ones. So you are going to have this, then inside it you are going to have this one, then you have the button under it. So let me close this left section and let us enter the right section. Let's do the one that is simple first, which is the button. And this one is going to be reset like that. So but before that button, we have a div, which is going to be the results container like that. So inside the results container, what is the first one? As you can see, we have the tip amount, and the second one is total. So we can use that one too for the class too. So here we just do this is going to be div like that. So div, which is going to be what is that? So we have the tip amount. So tip amount container like this. So why is it container? Is because it's containing everything, but under it you have the content on the left and you have the content on the right too. So that's why I'm calling it container. So here I'm going to have the content on this one. So inside this div, what should we have there? So we have the, so here I'm going to have the h6, which is going to be tip amount like this, and under it I'm going to have the p or span, anyone you want to do, but I'm going to use span. It's not just a paragraph, so it's going to be per person like this. So what is wrong with this thing? So it's going to be per person. So that's the text we have there. So tip amount per person. Then at the front side of it, which is so this one is going to be label. So let me call it label like that, so that it will be easier. So this is our label. Then after this div, we are going to have the h. Let's use h2 at this side, so which is going to be dollar, but we're going to be replacing this is going, let's give it a class so that it will be easier for us to target in JavaScript later on. So what we just do is a tip amount like this. So this is going to be the amount, or let me just say amount directly. So it's going to be amount like that. So after this, what do we have? We have the same thing down here too. You see the same pattern that we have there. The text, the label is what is different. So since we've done it already here, what we just need to do, but again, if you look at it, you see that they have the same look. Like the styling here, you see the same styling here. So it's better I just use the same this thing there like that. So let me just put it, what can I even call it? Yeah, so let me just call it tip amount like that. So the same thing I'm going to have there, that container is going to be the same thing like that, but the difference there now is that so again there are two amounts there now. So this one, let's call it total. So this is going to be total amount like that. No, total amount. And this one is going to be, the first one is going to be tip amount, so that it will be able to target them from JavaScript, even though the amount, but you know, the value you'll be putting here is quite different from the value you put here. So like that. So this one should be total. It's not going to be, we'll just say total like this. So save, and we are done with the HTML part. So we are done with the HTML part, but if you check, it's not looking like the way it's supposed to be, because there is no as a backend person, this is okay for them because this thing is functional. Once you connect JavaScript to it, it's functional. But to us, the front end there is not looking nice, or it's not looking presentable to the user there like that. It looks somehow. Look at what we have there compared to what we are trying to do. So the difference is really clear. But there's something we are missing in our HTML. We forgot to update the logo. So there's an image for logo, so we just need to update it. So inside the images, then inside it we have the logo.svg. So go back to that page, and now it should display the logo like that. So the next thing we need to do is to connect our HTML to the CSS, and again to set up our fonts like that. So how do we set up the fonts? So let's quickly do that. We need to go to this link by copy the link or control click on it to open it for you, but it's going to open in another browser that I don't want right now. So I'm going to copy the link, paste it here, and it should go to Google showing us that exact font, because that is a link to that particular font, and you can search for any one of them like that. So what we just need to do is for us to get the link for the code that is going to be connected to our page there. So in order for you to do that, we just need to click on this get font. Once you click, as you can see, it will be added in case you want to add multiple. So it already added this one, you can go back and start adding other one. But since this is only one we are using, so we don't need to be doing anything again. What we just need to do is to click on this get embedded code. So the one we need is for the web, but it has two patterns. You can do it from the HTML, or you can do it from CSS, depending on anyone you want to use. But I always love to do it from HTML like that. So because this one, it will preload, as you can see, pre-connect. It will preload all this in before the browser finish this thing. So what we just need to do is copy that link, go to the edge after the title, then paste the stuff. So it's going to download. Even though this thing is telling us that we only need 700, as you can see, it's loading more than 700. It's loading 400, it's loading 700 like that. But well, we don't care, because but when you care about the load time of your site, you always use exact stuff there, because if you need only 700, why do you need to be adding 400? Because that's extra download that the browser have to do for that particular one. And as you can see again too, is copying the italics and a lot of other type like that, but we don't care right now since we are learning there. So after this one, what we need to do is to link to our own CSS like that. So just by using the link, which is going to connect to our own CSS like that. So now our CSS is connected. We are not done yet, because as you can see, we need to come and this is anywhere we need the font. This is the font file. This is what we are going to use. So anywhere you want to use the font, this is what you are going to use. Let me even copy it down. So go into our CSS file and come back to the page. As you can see, nothing is changing yet because we don't have anything. But I told you, when you are building this thing, there's some things you need to do before you start working on the page. And one of the stuff is to reset some default setting that the browser is using on the page. And how do you do it? We normally select everything on the page by using this, and we set the padding to 0, because if you look at it and look at all these buttons, they have spacing inside them. Those spacing are coming from the browser, but we don't want this thing to be using the default spacing. Anyone I'm not mentioning it, don't use it. The same thing too, look at the spacing between this tip amount and this text. It's because the browser is putting some margin around the stuff. So here we can turn all this thing off. So padding should be 0, margin to be 0. Once I save now, go back to the page, can you see all those spacing will be removed. So anywhere we need them will be the one. Again, to another thing that needs to be set is box sizing, which should be the border box, so that by the time it's doing the calculation of your margin and padding along with the weight, it take the account of the box, not the content. By default, whatever you are doing with your box, it's focusing on the content, not the entire box. But you don't want it to be doing like that. So you want it to take everything account of, including the box together. Again, too, our font family, since it's everything is using the same font, all the content on the page is using the same font. So I'm going to paste this one here. So save, go back to the page. You see now, once the stuff is done loading, you'll see that it will now be using the value that we want, like that. So the other thing we need to set up according to our design, as you can see, we already have all the color code. So we don't need to be copying them one by one. We can set up as a variable. So I'm going to copy everything, set it up as a variable, which is something as I explained before, like that. And where do you put it? We want to make it global variable. So in order to be global variable, we are going to use our root elements like that. Root element is whatever you have, the first element here, which is the HTML, like that. So paste all these things here, convert it to uh, a proper CSS variable, like that. So let me close, like this. Then all this one, Command D to select. So let me do, yeah. So AI has already complete the stuff for me. I don't need to be wasting my time. So save. Now we have all the variables that we need on the page. So the next thing we need to do now is to start with our body. So the body, the width is going to be 100%. This is another thing you always going to be doing, like that. So the minimum age, so is going to be 100 VH, because even if the content is not up to that, we want it to maintain this minimum of this 100 VH. So we want to display it as flex, align to center, justifying to center, like that. So save, and once I go to the page, I should have all the content placed at the center like this. So we have this width. Again, too, another thing I normally used to do is overflow should be overflow X, like that. So anything that is trying to go on the X axis should be hidden, because if you have some content later on, but these are the basic stuff you always do. Even if it's not happening right now, you always put all these basic, except all this one, that is not always required, like that. But this one, you should always use them like this. So the next thing we need to do is to place the background. And if you look at the background it's using, so this is the background it's going on there, which is it looks like it is that strong cyan, so that is using. So background color there like that is going to be strong cyan. Then go back to the page. Is it the one? It's not. So it's not that one. So it should be this grayish. So it should be that grayish. So grayish cyan like this. So save, and nah, it's not the one. Okay, lights, should be the lights, grayish cyan, and I think this is it, like that. So it should be this, yeah. So that's the color at the back. So what do we need to do now? So we need to start working on the header section. So yeah, let me just select the header. So this one is going to be displayed as a flex, or and move everything that is inside. It look like it as a center, but it's not at the center of the box itself. So let me give you background so that you see what. So background should be red. It looks like at the center, but as you can see, so the content inside is not at the center. So the content too needs to go to the center. The entire box is at the center, but the content inside it's not at the center. So one way of doing it, we can just text align the stuff to center, like this. If that one works, we can leave it, because it used to work. But normally, I used to do the stuff directly with flex. So DF, we know that anything that you place there, we always go to center. So JCC, which is justify content center, like that, and AIC, which is a line item center, which is a way. So I will just leave it like that. So even if the text align is not doing it, those flex property are going to make sure it at the center. So let me remove this one and go back. But again, to our design we work with, we need to work with in a way that it's responsive. So the design is actually responsive. As you can see what is going on the mobile. So on the mobile, can you see the edge is touching? It's rounded at the top only. There's no round at the bottom at all. So once we get to that one, we need to play. So in order for you to emulate this, So we need to open our DevTools and we toggle our device emulator, and I'm going to go to that screen. As you can see, this is the screen that we are supposed to work on there. So let's select our main. So inside this main is having that background color of white. So let's save it. You see now, it's at, because we've already justified the body to center. So it move everything. So what we can just do here is that let's do the width to be 100%. So we want the width to cover everywhere. So width 100% like this. VS Code, what's going on? So width 100%, so that on mobile we'll be able to have that experience. But that's another problem here. Another problem is, as you can see at the bottom part, it did not get there. But is reason why is because we've not really styled some of this content, but you can actually make sure that it's covered the experience too, like that. But for now, what I will just do is to leave it like that. But another way of doing it is by using flex one. Now, don't forget flex one. Allow other content to take their space, then the remaining one you take over the stuff like that. So that's one way of doing this. So, but again, to this one itself is not even taking everything, so it doesn't take the account of what is going on like that. So, but for now, I'm going to leave it like this. So another thing we need to do is to display it as flex too. So let us display is going to be flex. So flex that on big screen the two containers are side by side, but on small screen they are on top of each other. Don't forget, when you're designing mobile first, then later on you now scale it up. So that's why I'm working on the mobile. So once I put it now, see, you see that the content will still be placed, but there's a space. You can see they are not, there's a space in between them like that. So what I can just do here is to use gap of 2 rem, which is just 32 pixels like that. So save, go back to the page. So you see that this thing is going to have that spacing in between them. But something is wrong here. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. This thing is not arranged. Yeah, so something is wrong because yeah, so that means the arrangement, I did not follow the arrangement, because what I was expecting, I'm not seeing it here. I'm seeing this splitter is still inside that background too. And the reason it's like that is because we just use the main for something else. So what I would just do here, we use main for something else. So what I would do here is to cut everything. So what we're going to do is W is going to be 100% like this. But when you get to a bigger screen, we don't want it to go more than a specific width. So this one is going to be, let me see, this thing should be around that. Let me see that one. Let's just say 920 pixels like this. Then inside it, we are going to have this one's supposed to be up, because this is the one that comes first according to the arrangement. So it's always good that you arrange them like that. Again, we don't have the container, so this is where all these things are supposed to be like that. So again too, I'm going to display this one as flex, so that I'll be able to use what I want to use before. So this is going to be display flex like this. Then flex direction is going to be column. And why do I need? So that I can place these two. And again, we need to have gap maybe around this 1 rem, or let's do 2 or 1.5 like that. So which is 24 pixels. So now, as you can see, it's working the way it's supposed to work. So what else do we need to do? We need to put at this edge, it needs to curve, and here it needs to curve, but it will not curve down. But when we get to desktop, everything is going to curve, because on mobile only the top section is curved. But when you get to this in, all side are curved. And again, it look like it's kind of a displays on top of that container. Like if you look at it, something is, so that means there is a shadow at the back of the stuff when we get to a bigger screen, but it's a light shadow. But for now, let us leave that one. So what we just need to do now is to use our border radius. And border radius, we talked about that when you give it one value, it has what it's going to do. When you give it two value, it has what it's going to do, and so forth like that. So you can check the video. So when you give it one value, that's for all of them. When you give it two value, the first value is for this and this. The second value is for this and this. But if you give it, so what we can need to do now is that the first two, this is top, so top left. This is the next one is top right. The next one is the bottom right, and the last one is bottom left. So this is what we need to do. So we need to turn these two to 0, while these two as the value we want like that. Also, So what we just need to do here is that this one will be 1 rem, then 0, 0. At the bottom end, we are not going to have anything. So if you look at it now, can you see? So we have it at the top section, but we don't have it at the bottom side. So again, too, we need to have a spacing inside the box. So padding 1 rem, which is going to give us the spacing that we have right now. So it's going to give us this spacing that we have right now. So what do we need to do? What we need to work on next. So let me go back to the mobile design. So what we need to do now is to work on this, all these container that we have there. And don't forget, once we work on one, you need to affect the other one because we give them the same class there. So what are we working on? So opening the container, close this section, open the left section. So inside the left section, as you can see, we have this bill container. But before I get there, note all of them too, they are inside this side. So we need to give a space. You can see there's a spacing here, there's a spacing here. But if you look at our own right now, as you can see, everything is jam-packed together. So we need to select this container. So we need to select that left. So going back to that place, so we just need to select the left. So it's going to display flex like that. So display flex. So flex direction is going to be column, and again I'm going to give a gap of 1.5 like that. So going back to the page, as you can see now, there is now that space in between the bill, select tip, and number of people. So after that, we have this container, control container. All of them have control container like that. So it's going to be display flex like this too. So flex fxdc like that, which is going to be flex direction column, and a gap of around that 0.7512. So what I'm working on is this bill and this box. So this is the label and the control. So they can select it and not just button, number of people, and this one. That's what we're working on right now. So once I save now, you see that to change all of them, as you can see, because they have the same class. And since the same class, it will work on all of them. So the next thing we need to work on there, so we need to enter that container. And as you can see inside the container, we have the label. So all of them have labels. So what we just need to do, go to the page. So inside the control container like that, there is a label there. And the label, so look at the styling for the label. So it have this, let me see. And I think it's kind of okay to me for now, because we don't really have the Figma design. So as when we have a Figma design, you can actually click on it. It will tell you all the properties of the text that you have there. But to me, I will just leave it like that. I will just leave it like that for now, because oh wait, the color. Let's change the color. The color is not actually black. It just look like black. So let me go up. The color is different, and I think the color is this dark grayish cyan. So this is what I will do. I want all of them to have the same color by default. Let me see. Almost all of them use that same color. Let me, not all of them. Not all of them. Let's do it one by one. So inside this place, what we just want to do is it's going to be dark gray cyan. So save it, go to the page. So as you can see, all the label, we have that same color, which looks like the same thing as what we have here, like that. So is that dark grayish cyan? Very dark. I don't think it's very dark. So I think it's that dark grayish. So now the normal font size is okay for me. So the next thing we need to work on, this is where the work is, and what I want to explain. It is going to come in. As you can see, there is a background here that is going on. So inside this place, we have another container there, which is this control group. So let's select control group. So inside this control group, so control group, so control group. So please listen here, because I've not explained this thing before. So inside this control group, I have the input, and inside this control group too, or before I even get to input, so inside the control group, I have image. So this image, we need to make it overlap on top of the input. So what we can do here is that this control group now, we want the input to take the entire weight of what is there. So how can we do that? They are different. You can just come here and say width is just 100%, or another way of doing it, just display this one as flex. You know, when you display as flex, it covers all the entire space. Everything that's inside it are going to stretch by default like that. So we input what we just need to tell you that once I save it now, is so that they are going to be placed. But I want the input to take the any space that is left, because here now if you go to the container and you give it background color, for example red, you see that one are cover. Can you see cover the entire stuff, but the input did not. It just take over the minimum width that was set for it. So what we can just say here is that the flex is going to be 1. You know, 1 means allow the other thing that is inside it to take space, then remaining one take it. Can you see? You see that the input has covered up whatever, but it's still going to be the one that will cover up this one too. But we need to make sure that this one is removed from here and we place it where we want to place. So how do you do that? How do you do that? In CSS, we have a position property, and this position property comes with different value, and based on the value you are using, determine how this thing is going to work. So when you say position, it can you say it comes with different value. What is there by default is this static. Static means that wherever you place the element, that's where it's going to be on the page. But apart from this static, we have other one. Again, too, another thing here is that with position, we have offset property. Offset property, they are this. So we have the top. So this one allows you to shift the element from its top downward when it is positive. So any side you are working with, any side of the offset you are working with, it's moving against that position. So if you set the top, it means if you use positive value, it will move away from top. So but the calculation is starting from the top, the original location of the element. For example here, now, so let me come here. So this is this element, its original location, this original top is this. If I say 50%, it means it will move by 50% from this top here. So which means it move the top of the element down when you use positive value. When you use negative value, it's moving towards it, towards the side. So which means it will go up. But it's not only top you have. You can mention other offset properties. So these are the offset properties that we have. We have top, we have bottom, we have left, and you can offset from right. And we have insert. Insert is just a way of you changing all of them at once. So it allows you to change them instead of you mentioning top left. So once you give insert one value, it will apply to all of them at once. Or insert you can have your this thing. So it's work with this. This is how it work like that. So it will make it easier to work with all of them at once. So these are the offset properties. So offsets properties like this, and they accept values. So you can now offset your element. But with static, they don't work. So here now, for example, if I use top and I use 50 pixels, what I'm saying is this element, that place you used to be, move down by 50 pixels. But since it's static, which is always there, whether you mention this static or you don't mention it, that's what is there by default. So as you can see, nothing will happen because element is static. It cannot be moved by offset. But another type you have here is relative. So this is relative. So relative, the way it works is that it works with offset, but wherever the location where you place it, it will still know about that particular place. It will be using its original location to calculate the movement of this offset property. So if your element in the top is here, and we said it should move by 50 pixels, so from top, it will come down by 50 pixels. But that doesn't mean something else will not take over that space. That space should still be there, just that you are moving the element around. For example, here now, save this one. As you can you see now where it is? We said that from its original location, we are moving it down by 50 pixels. So from there now, to the original location before, that is 50 pixels. So if I want to move it, maybe this one is too much, I can use 10. So save and go back to the page. You see that from its original location, it's moved down by offset by 50 pixels. So whatever offset you want to use. So if it is from the left, I want to move to the right, what I just need to use left, and this is going to be 20 pixels. So what I'm saying is that your left, from this left, this is the left of it. So it should be shifted towards the right by that amount of value. So save, you see from top, it moved by 10, then from left, it will, can you see that that location is still there? Nothing can take over that space, but it can move around. But that's not what you want. You want it to move around, but you don't want the location to stay be there. But now, how is he now going to know what to use to calculate? No, once you remove this, another element will take over that space. And since another element has taken over that space, how is he going to know how to calculate top, left, and right? So that, but the one you need to use if you want to do that is this absolute. Absolute means it behaves like relative too. But the problem with it is that first, the location where that element is before, it will collapse. So which means element doesn't know where it's coming from again. And since it doesn't know where it's coming from again, it needs to use something to calculate the offset. So, and there are rules for what, because what it's going to use is depending on whether the parent is display is position or not. So whether the parent is static or not. So this is how absolute work. When you display any element as absolute and the parent of that element is not positioned apart from, like the element is static, what it will do is that it will look for any parent that is positioned. And whatever element that is positioned, or whatever the parent that is positioned, that's the one it's going to use to calculate its offset. But if any of its parent is positioned, any of its immediate parent, that immediate parent is what it's going to use to calculate left, right, and this is what we want to use now. So if you look at it now, so once I save, it's still the same value. But now once I save, you see that the calculation is now different. Can you see what is happening? Can you see what is happening to them? So what they are doing is that, what is happening there is that once you display any element as absolute, even before you start using any offset property like that, once you display any element, or once you position rather, once you position any element as absolute, they will be, can you see, they will be, that spacing they are occupying there, it will be gone. Can you see that the input has taken over that space, because this one doesn't know where it's coming from. So it's not less for you now to move it around anywhere you want using offset. But when you're using offset, since this thing doesn't know where it's coming from again, how is it going to move on the page? So what it will do is that it will go to its parent, because if you go back to the page, there, see this image, it is inside this div. So it will look, this control group, are you positioned? Then if that one is not positioned, then it will leave. It will go to the next one. Are you positioned? If that one too is not positioned, it will go to the next one. Are you positioned? That one too is not positioned. Are you positioned? Until you now get to the body. So that's the highest. So it will now be using, and that's the reason why you see that all of them, they are now at the top. The reason why they are at the top is because they check their immediate parent. They did not see any one of them that is positioned. And since none of them is positioned, they are now using body to calculate the offset. So that means here, as you can see, from here to here, that's the 10 of the body. From here to here, that's it. So now if I use 0, you see that they will stick to the body at the top. So now, instead of using this, if I use 0, which means it's not moving on at the top at all. On the left too, it's not moving. So as you can see, they will stick. But we don't want them to be using body to calculate. We want them to use the container, and that's the reason why that we put this in here. So the reason why we put this div is because we want to position it so that this image will be able to move based on that. The reason why we use this control group here is because we want to position it in a way that by the time we are calculating offset for the image, it will be using this div to calculate its value. So in order for this one to work, what we just need to do is to go to the parent, which is this one, and we position it as relative. Just position it apart from static. And the one you need right now, the reason we need to use relative is because by default, relative don't, it always maintain its original location. It can move too, but if you don't move it at all, it will still maintain. And that's what we want to do here. So once we save it now, you see that, can you see? They are not moving again by the body. They are moving by their immediate parent, that is position. So what we can now do is that to move this thing down, so that in order for it to be at the center, we have some trick we normally use. So to move something to the center, what you just do is to do 50%. From the top, it's coming down by 50%. But that doesn't mean it's at the center. It will never be at the center. As you can see, it's the edge that is going to be at the center, not this in itself like that. So how can we do it? How can we do it to make it this? Can you see the stuff? The center of the dollar, the center of itself. What is at the center is, don't forget, is the top you are moving. You are not actually moving the center of the dollar or any element, because you can do this thing with any element. But since you are doing with this image, you are not really moving the center of that element. What you are moving is the side that you mentioned. If it is the left, what you are shifting is the left of it, not the center that you are moving from the left. You are shifting the left towards the right or towards the left, depending on the value you are using. The same thing too, when you say top should be 50%, you are saying top of this thing should go to the center. But you know this thing is wrong. Is the center of the dollar that's supposed to be at the center. So trick we normally use here is we use mathematics, because you know mathematics, when this thing come down and another thing is pushing, like when they have the same power, you know they are going to meet at the center. So how do you do that? So we have this thing that we've talked about before. You know, we talked about transform like that. So what we now do here is, as you can see, transform. This one is returning it to the top. This one is moving it down. They meet at the center. So this one that one shift, this one shift. Since both of you have the same power, then you meet. You know, this one is shifting up, this one is shifting down. So they will now meet at the center. But the thing is, you have to resort to draw. Draw means stay at the center. You can't come to my side, I can't go to your side. We have to be at the middle, like that. Once you save now, you see that. Can you see? It will now. So the first one, offset is moving it down. The other one is moving it up. Then both of you will meet at the center. But there's a problem there, like that. Our this thing is not displaying where it's supposed to be. What we can do here, one thing you can just do here is to use our, you know, we've talked about all this thing, is to use our text align. So text align there is going to be, you know, by default, all texts are always aligned to the left, but we don't want it like that. We want it to, so whatever you are typing should come from the left, because we've placed something by this side. So another thing we need to do is to remove, because if you look at the original stuff, there is no line there. What we have is a background, and like that again, here into that spacing inside the box, and that's why I need to move it on the left side so that it's not jam packed. So what we need to do first is, let me use padding here around this 1 rem. The border is going to be none, like this, or later on we can just say border is going to be 1 pixels solid transparent. For now, transparent means that you don't want anything. Border radius, so now look at it, we have this thing again. Let me remove this one, this background that I'm using on the container, because that one is on. So again, this padding is really much on top and bottom. So what I need to do is top and bottom point 5 rem, like this. Top and bottom, left and right should be 1 rem. So you can see, but there is no background there. By default, this doesn't have background. So what we need to do is background color is going to be this very light. So background color like this, very light. As you can see, we have what we are looking for. But if you look at it, can you see? Because this thing doesn't respect, you know, it's not based on the input, but it's based on the container that we put there. And we said the stuff should be left of 0. So what we just need to do, you know, we said this one is 1 rem. So what we just need to do is to use that same whatever stuff. So we just move it by 1 rem on the left, so that it will not look as if that padding is actually there, but that padding is not affecting. You know, that one is position. Once you position, it doesn't care about every other element. Anywhere you move it to, that's where it will stay. If there's any other element there, it will overlap it. And that's why I have to move this text here. So which means if I type something and that something can get to that place, you see that it will overlap. So it will overlap because it doesn't care. Anywhere you place it, it will overlap the contents that you have there. So let me type until you get it. Can you see? It will overlap. So which means this input here now, we need to give him more, even though there's no way the amount you want to put will get it. But that doesn't mean it will not get there when you're on a small screen, when the thing is really compact or you increase the size. As you can see what is going on there like that. So what we can do here, so the left of this one, I know we said just say this one should. So what I will just do here is that the button is going to be 0.5, but this one is going to be, so this is 1 rem plus 0.5. So this should be 1.5 like that. So let me just save it. What did I type? This is nonsense. This is not where I want it to be. So it is the right one. So let me just mention the left. So yeah, not 2.5. Let me try 1.5 first. So do this. Yeah, as you can see. So no, this one is 1. Then I add extra to make, but I think it's, so let me just use 0.875 like that, which is 30 pixels. So as you can see, it will never get there because the input we've already give that spacing. It will always stop. Like it stuff is going, as you can see, it's going, but it's entering inside, because the box, once you get to the part, all the other value will be going inside the stuff. So we've limited the stuff, but even though the whatever you be typing will never get to that part, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take care of the stuff. So let me go back to the screen. So this is what we have, and as you can you see the advantage of class? What I'm focusing on is this, but as you can see that it's happening down here too, because we give them the same class. So assuming that I'm using different class, I have to copy everything I do here, which is bad. So that's it. Once you see things look alike, give them the same class and it will work. But now the reason I did not give this one the same class is because his own style is quite different, and that's the reason why this one is named as so if I go to the tip selection, you see that that one now is now called the is now called this one, which is this tip option. So we need to select this one now, go into that page. So we have a tip option. So this one we need to display it as grid so that it will be easier for us like that. So display grid, and once I display grid, nothing will still happen that much because by default it's just one layer, so it will auto stack them on top of each other. But if you look at the original design on mobile, it is 2-2, while on desktop it is a 3-3 per line, like that. So what do we need to do? We just need to come here and use our grid template columns that we've talked about, like that. So we repeat it twice, or I can just say one FR, one FR. That's not what I want you to do. One FR, one FR, since it's just 2 items. But if it is really more than 3, you should be using repeat. This one I can just use repeat too. But I always love to use repeat like that because it's quite easier to. So 3, just repeat twice, one FR. So this one FR, repeat it 2 times. It's still the same thing as you typing it yourself, like that. So save, as you can see now, they are placed, but there's no space in between them. So gap should be this 1 rem, and as you can see, we have that spacing. Again, the box have padding inside them and they have edge. So inside this, we have the tip option like this. So this tip option, we want to have display flex like that. Item, align item, text, line center, padding, border radius, and so forth like that. So no, it's not this color. So save and go back to the page. As you can see, we have that. Again, there is no line around it. So border should be none like that. So it's going to be like this. And the color we have there, and I think the padding, where is my padding? So let me add more to the top, 0.75 rem like that. On the top, we should have more padding. And again, too, the button should be cursor so that I show the hand that is something that is clickable. And again, too, by default, they have this background color with the white. So color is going to be white. Background color is going to be that strong cyan, like this. Nah, it's not strong. I think it's a dark one. So where is the color? Yeah, very dark. It's very dark. Very dark cyan. So this is it. But we need to reverse. And again, to the font, everything on this page they are using 700. So let me go to body. So since all of them are using the same font weight, let me just go to everything. So font weight, because the design said everything is just 700. I don't want to be typing it inside each one of them one by one. Yeah, you can see all of them are going to be bold automatically like that because we are selecting everything. And again, too, the text is really bigger than that. Yeah, so the text is really bigger than that. So the font size, I'm going to use 2 rem, which is at 32 pixels. Yeah, so now, which is really too big. 1.5 rem should be okay. Yeah, I think this one is okay. So again, to any one of them, anytime you move there, it's supposed to change the color. So whether it is active or so, it's supposed to. So anytime the tip option, anytime it have this class active or tip option is over, so we need to switch. So now what we need to do is that yeah, so the strong cyan, then the color is going to be that very dark cyan. So save. So whether you give it a class, as you can see, but the thing is changing fast, I want it to change slowly. So now we can apply our transition that we've talked about. So transition, what are we transitioning? We are transitioning background color and color. So it's going to take that number. So anytime any one of them is changing, it's going to take that amount also, which is kind of a nice compared to that quick switch that we have like that. So what do we need to do again? So we can't see that one on mobile. That's why I have to switch to desktop because it's touch. On mobile is touch, so you cannot see it until you click, and then you click outside to make it look like and I think we are done with this one too. Like that. We are done with this part. The next part we need to work on is this the other one, which is this side. So we need to work. No, we are not done. I did not really work on this. So it's not done. Because can you see the value? And can you see the color that is there? They are not the same. So let me go back. In the stuff, it is that cyan, that cyan. So let's go there. So the color is going to be that very dark cyan. Again, the font size should be big, like this. No, it's even bigger than that. 1 point. Let me just use 2. That's 32. Yeah, but there's a problem. So you can see what is going on. The input is going outside of the screen. That's the stupid thing about this input. By default, they used to stretch anyhow. So what we can do, as you can see, that's what they used to do. They used to go out, like normally they want to take, by default the browser applies some stupid minimum width on them, so we can remove that. Anytime you have that kind of a problem, what you need to change is minimum width. The browser is doing some crazy stuff with the minimum width, so what we can just do is like your minimum, so it should be, so don't just, because the minimum is kind of a really big, so that minimum, it means it must maintain this. That's why it's going, because it can't go less than that. But we say minimum should be 0. You can expand though, but the minimum is kind of at 0. This is one way of solving it, as you can see now. It will never go past is that parent. It will never, because by default, all the CPU, the browser used to set something, and the gate will depend on the browser that you are using. We set that kind of a random, the value is random, it's not the same. But once you set it to 0, you can now, so the stretching will not be that much again once you set it to this minimum width. Not width, because you know when you say width, you know that is the definite value. But this one, you can expand, but you can't go less than 0, which is what we want, not, because we know that it's going to expand. Yeah, so now we have what we want like that. And I think this too, let me reduce it to 0.875, which is 30 instead of 32, like that. So when it's our value, can you see the color? This is the color we want. But when it is placeholder, as you can see, the color is not using the color of placeholder, because when it is placeholder, the color is actually different. Let me see. So it's not black, it's that, it looks like a light cyan something something. So how do we style a placeholder alone? Because the styling we are doing is the content, not the placeholder. Placeholder doesn't take all the style from its parent. So what we need to do is that to select it, so group like this, so input, so we have the pseudo selector for placeholder. So placeholder like that. So with this, whatever you are doing is all about placeholder. Wait, I don't want to use that dark. It's not dark. I think it's this light grayish. Let me use that light. So where are you? Light grayish. It is light. So light gray cyan. So save. Like that. Go to the players. What's wrong with this thing? Why will you change what I type? I know there's something is wrong. So save, yeah, as you can see, so it's, but I think this light is too much. It should be this grayish, I think. Yeah, so grayish cyan. Nah, let me go back to that light. I think that light makes sense to me. So when it is placeholder there, so this is what it will show, like that. Again, to look at the line that is coming out when you are inside. This line too is depending on, this is outline, and it's depending on the browser. So I will change it to like that. So what we can just do here is when the input is focused. So the control group, because it's when you enter it that it used to do this. So, but I want the focus, not, I want the outline. But you can remove it if you don't want the outline and put the border, as you can see. So it will, now we've changed what is there instead of what you normally used to have. Yeah, so that part is done. Let's quickly finish this one so that we can work on the desktop. So what do we need to do now? Go to the page, collapse this the left section, and we open the right section. This one too, we work on one, it will affect the other one. But before I get there, let me just work on the button. So let me work on the button that is under the left. So let me just go back there, and I think they are using the same. No, the color of this one. So when no value, this is what's supposed to happen. So it's going to be this when it is disabled. So if it will be disabled when there is no value there like that. So what we just need to do here is let me give it a class so that it will be easier to select class reset like that. So it will be easier to select. So under the left, what we need to do are not left. Under the right section, what we need to do is we need to display it as a display flex like this in this way. So flex by default they are going to be placed side by side. That's not what I can see. They are placed side by side. So that's not what I want. Take them back like that. And what I want to do here is justify content. Since I've already do it like this, so this is justified content now. Space between, so that when there is a space, and when there is no space, because on small screen there will not be space at all. I want to force a space of 2 rm in between them like that. So, but when you get to desktop, the left will have more space, so it will create more space too on the right, like that. So what do we need to do? So we need to work on this one now. So the reset container. But before I do that, said that this thing I did not put the color. I did not put this color, which is a very dark. You can see everything there supposed to be that very dark. And so this right is going to be background color. So very dark, yeah, like that. So go back to the page as you can, yeah. So it needs to have border radius padding. Why did you remove it again? Complete it. Padding 1 rem, border radius like this. No, this one is using one border radius. What did I use for the other one? Let me just use 0.75. I don't know, 75 rem like this. No, that one is the outer one, and the inner one is this. Yeah, but let me check this. Let me, where is the mobile? Does it have, yeah, it have for mobile. Yeah, it's looking like that. So it's like that too. Um, Again, the color. So let's enter each one of them. Inside it, we have this result container. Inside the result container, we have display flex direction is going to be colon, gap is going to be this. So save, it's going to gap this. Let me use 0.625, which is 10 pixels. So in between each one of these one is going to, so inside this result container we have, what is that? So we have the tip, so we have this. So this is one we need to work on now. So for this, you can see one item is on the right, one item is on the left. So we need to work on it from here. So what we just need to do this. So display flex like this, and we need to align it to center. AIC like that. So align item center like this. So again, we need to put a space in between them like this, and we need to gap it in case there is no, maybe you're on a small screen, just force at least this small, as you can see now. So it will force that spacing in between them. This gap is really small. Let me use this. Yeah, so it's to force that gap. So what we need to do next, we have the label. So inside that tips, we have the label. So inside the tips amounts, we have the label. So this one too, display flex. The label is this these two items like that. So the label is going to be this FXDC. They are supposed to be on top of each other like that. So gap is just 0.25 area, 4 pixels like that. Yeah, so it's going to be on top of each other like that. So inside this, so inside the label we have h6, like that. So the color there, so the color, so let me just change the font size first. So font size is going to be points, is going to what's wrong with this thing? So font size is going to be this, so that you can increase that by, yeah, but it's supposed to be bigger than this. Again too, there is a span there, so that one is going to be lesser than this, so it's going to be 0.7. So it's just a small, so it will reduce the person, it will increase this one. It's because I increased the stuff. This is, that one is the actual screen. This one I can change, I can increase it. Yeah, so that you see what is going on. So yeah, now we need to change all the color. Color is going to be this. Let me see, did I pick the correct color? Yeah, yeah, that's the correct color. Where's the other one? What's the other? Is it white or what? Okay, very light grayish and very light. The other one is very light. Very light. So save and go to the page. Yeah, no, it's too light. It's too light. It's too light. It should be this grayish cyan. Grayish cyan. Too light. Yeah. So the other one, the actual price itself is our. So the other one is the amount. So we have amount. Wait, there are two type of amount there. Okay, they are the same. Let me just use H2 to select them. Let me use H2 to select them because I want it to happen to the down one too. H2, like that. So font size should be this. It's not okay. Save. Go to the page. Yeah. So we have this, and lastly, we have the button. So we have the reset like that. Border should be none like this. Border radius is going to be 0.75 rem like that. It's going to be 0.75 like that. By default, it's going to be disabled because when you load the stuff by default, there is no value. At that point, we know that it is disabled. But later on, JavaScript will be removing this property. So when everything is not valid, it will remove it. If it's not valid, it will add it back and like that. So go to the page, you can see. So disable, but we need to change the color when it is disabled, because when it is disabled, this is what it show when it's not disabled. But when it is disabled, this is what it needs to be there. So let's work on this one by let's work on this style by default. So let's work on this. Because when it's not disabled, this is what we want. So what we want to do here is the cursor is going to be pointer like that. So background color is going to be that one. Strong, is it strong cyan? Not strong. Yeah, it's strong. And the text, the color is going to be very dark cyan like that. So save, go back to the page. Yeah, so we need to work on the padding. Padding, so 1 rem like that on all the side. Yeah, and I think it's okay, but the text should be bigger than that. So font size should be 1.5 rem like this. So yeah, so it's okay, or 1.25, 1.25 like that. And the other thing we need to do is now when it's not disabled, so reset. So reset anytime it is disabled, that's the selector. So anything that have this property disabled, it will do the stuff like this. So let me see. It will, but the first time, the first load, check this one. No, you still handle it there too now. You still handle it, but this one is for visual. This is visual. Look at it. When everything is okay, See the visual. When everything is on okay, see the visual. JavaScript is not giving you visual, it's giving you functionality. But the visual here telling them that this button, oh, you can't use it here. You can't use it yet. But that doesn't mean no that some people they have conquer head, they will still click, even though you put the visual there. But the thing will now work. But again, through the browser by default, when you put disable on button, it doesn't trigger click. When there is a disable on button, anything that you attach as click on it, it will not trigger it. But if you just only, that's why I use disable. I did not just use class. As you can see, I did not use class disable. I put the property disable because the browser will kick in and do some magic out of the box. But some people can still bypass the stuff because anybody can see the HTML code. They will just go there, remove this one. And once they remove it, then the browser will not see disable again. They will not click on the button. But if your code too is handling it, then so both of them are going to be there. So that's how it is. But you're still going to be fit because not everybody that is going to be going to your code to be changing the code before clicking. They're like that. So I used to do something like that when something is disabled. I will just remove that disabled so that I can trigger the click. This is not what's supposed to be there. This one is giving me nonsense. Color should be very dark. Color should be very dark, and the background is what? The background is that. So let me see. So the background is too light. Supposed to be close to the darker version of it. That grayish, dark grayish, yeah, dark should be dark. Yeah, I think it's okay. Like that. Another thing we can do is just to reduce the opacity a little bit. Let me see. Yeah, they actually reduce the opacity. So what we can just do here is opacity should be around that point 8 like this. So that it's reduced or 0.5. Let me see. Yeah. So look at this thing. There is a change there. Let me reduce it to, opacity is reducing the, so you can see. So well, let me change it to 0.6. Yeah, so around that 0.6 is okay. Like that. So now it looks nice. Can you see those one I say is not? So by the time the value there, it will cover automatically. So now again, too, there's another problem. You can see at the top that because there is no space, it take them off. So what we can do here is to go to that header itself. So on mobile, so what we're going to do here is that the padding top is going to be 1 rem. At least give us this space at the top. I think 2 rem should be okay. So padding top should be 2 rem like that. So it give us that at least 2 rem spacing at the top. Well, now let's go into small. Like this is still phone, but there's some phone that they are really big. Like that. As you can see, this thing, well, it still look nice. If you want it like this on this screen, you can leave it like that. But going into tablet, you can see the tablet. I think it looks nice too on tablet. To me, right now, it still looks nice on tablet. Because except if I want to change this one, so let's change those one on tablet. So how can we do that? What we can just do here is come to our media query. So at media, like this, so screen and a mean width of 768 pixels. Once you enter this screen like that, so what do we want to do? We want to work on our tips option like this. Now we use the, so what the only thing we are just changing is the template. So then repeat 3 1 so every other thing remain the same. We just change, instead of it to be 2 2 from this screen and above, it will now be 3 3 like that. So every other thing there is no difference except when we get to desktop. You can see now we already have, so we need to move them side by side on that screen. So again, take another media query. This one is 1024. So what are we doing? What we are doing here is to move our section. So which is going to be container. So this container flex direction is going to be row like this. So save, and as you can see, but it's supposed to be half half. So what we need to do here is to take I can select everything that is inside it directly, but let me use all those. So we have the left and we have the right. So flex. No, since you say 1 1, so that's 1 plus 1. One will take 1 over 2, the other one two will take 1 over 2. And once you save, then half half like that. Again, we can increase the gap if you want, but I will just leave it like that. Again, as you can see that only the top is showing the border radius. So we need to show it at the bottom part too. Now before, if you go on into our container, what we just have is, as you can see, we are not showing at the bottom. So now that we are on a bigger screen, we need to bring it here. So border radius like that. I will just use one area. Just use it for all of them. So now 1 1 1 1. Again too, we need a spacing here like that. Let me increase the gap there. Gap should be 3 I don't know. So I want to increase. No. This is not what it's supposed to be. It's the main. It's the main that owns this. Like that. So main it will space. Yeah. So to increase the spacing at that point. Again, too, you might want to increase some stuff, but I think it's okay for now. Again, too, there's some errors that's supposed to come out there. We did not add all those ones because we don't want to do a lot of work on this thing for this one. But it's so it's not small, but because I'm still explaining what is going on, I mean I'm doing myself, so it will be more than it will not be more than, like, it will not take up to this time. So what do we need now? So the next thing is now for us to add JavaScript, and I think we are going to do that one in the next class. But first, before we go, let's set up our JavaScript too, like that. So how do we set up JavaScript? So when you want to set up a JavaScript, you always add it at the bottom. So scripts, then the one with the source, then I will connect it to my index.javascript. So what do we need to do here? What are we doing in JavaScript? We need access to this box, because we need to have the value that you type there. Again, we need access to all these buttons because we need to know which one you click on. Then again, we need access to what you have here, like that. We need access to this button here. We need access to these values there. So how do you have access to them from JavaScript? We've talked about different ways of targeting yours. So for example, I can just say bill input. So this is what I'm calling. So bill input is not going to be documents like that. So get element by ID, but I don't like it. So query selector like that. So I'm looking for inputs like this that have, if you want to do it in that way, or I will just do bill like this. So input that have this particular ID, bill like that. So for the people too, so const people or num of people inputs like that, is that the ID, because this is what they do. Because so every time you believe this AI, sometimes they'll just do nonsense. It's when you are now checking that you see that they've given you nonsense. So where's my this thing? So bill, as you can see, the ID is bill. So for the other one, can you see now? See the ID that I use. But look at what AI is thinking I use. So that's why you start looking for what not lost. So what else do we need? We need access to all these buttons. But it's not one button. There are multiple buttons. So the way you select that one is quite different. So add tip, what did they call it? I want to be using the same name on them. So yeah, tip selectors, tips btns like that. As you can see already, it's coming out, but it's not using the correct value. So let me go back there. Yeah, so tip option, let me just call it like that. So tips options like that. So it's going to be tip. So tip option like this. But see, we're using query selector all, which is going to pick all of them. So what else do we need on that page? So we've taken the number of people, we've taken, so we need access to the tip amount and the total amount. So const tip amount is going to be document tip amount. Total amount, then the reset button is going to be reset. I'll let name it reset, not. So now we have access to everything we need. So let's test it whether it's working. So this is our bill input. What we just want to do right now is just to set the value like that, or inner HTML or whatever stuff. Uh, but we don't have inner HTML or whatever stuff. So it's going to be tests, and we can just go to the page. Can you see now? So the value is coming from JavaScript. So that means we're able to select this one correctly. Again, to the norm of people. So norm of people like that. So save that one too. So, but that's not how we are going to be working. The stuff again too. Anytime you click on this thing, we need to do something there. We've talked about it. So anytime you click on it, we need to change. We need to add a property on it. We need to toggle a class. And if you remember in our CSS when we are styling, you see that I did something there when we are doing the styling. Can you see? So that's now I do this class when it have class active. When this thing will be added is when you click. Any one of them you click on, it will add class active on it, but it will remove it from every other one. Because if you don't remove it, you see the problem. This is what I'm saying here. So what we need to do now is to um, add the this thing, but let me add it to the first one first. Now, how do you select the first one? We've talked about the array, but there's some other array functionality I want to talk about in the next class first before we jump into this. Now, for you to select the first one there, you use index 0. And what am I doing? There. So add. This is not the way you do it, because what if you have like 20 buttons? Are you not going to be doing them one by one? No. There's a way of you going through them one by one and just attach it. So the number of whatever that is here, it will go through them automatically and attach this event. Those are the stuff we'll be talking about in the next slide, but I just want to do it on the first one and the second one so that you can see the effect of this thing. What I want is click, and what happens? So anytime it is click like that, so tips, but now I don't even care. So let me receive the event. No, don't forget any element that you click on, or that's your target. So normally I'm supposed to call this one, but I have to be typing this long stuff again. I don't want to type. What I just want to do, event dot target, then dot class list, then dot add like this, which is going to be what am I adding? Artist. So let me do it for the second and the third one too, so that you see what I'm talking about. So this is the second one, and this is the third one. Don't forget array based on zero index. So all those things. So now if I click on the first one, as you can see, it had class active. If I click on the third one, it's supposed to remove it from here before adding to that. So those are all these kind of a problem that this thing doesn't handle for you. You have to be the one that will handle it. So what you can do here now, if I assuming I want to do it now, what I would now do is go through all the stuff, then remove it. Again too, I don't do something like this. What I would do is to go through all of them. So in the next class, I'm going to, so can you see the stuff? So I have this E. Can you see what just look at what I just did now? What I'm doing is can you see the stuff? So for each one of them that is here, I don't care whether it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go through all of them and do this thing to each one. But now since we don't know ahead, that's the reason why this target is very important, because that target at that point knows that this is the button you are dealing with. It doesn't know yet. There's no way you know that is the first one or the second one. But this target here, any one of them that you click, it knows the button you are dealing with. So here now I'm saving this code. So now I don't need to be doing it for all of, so all of them will work because it has gone through all of them. And so each one of them, the one you click on is always going to, but again, so I need to remove it from whatever that is there before. So what I can just do here is tips. Well, I will come back to all this for each in the next class like that. So first, so what am I doing here? First, go through all of them, remove anything that is active, then the one that you now click on, add active. So now I go to the page. If I click on this, Wait, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's because I did not pass the correct stuff. JavaScript will not want you. Even though the editor, code editor is already like VS Code is showing you, can you see this thing is gray out? It's telling that you are not using it. So anyone of them that gray out, you are not using it. That's what it's telling you. If you go on top of, can you see? But it's never used. So which means there's a problem. It's when you're not using it that you start seeing something that is wrong. So now let me come back. As you can see, no magic. The magic there is that you go and but because the thing is really fast, you will not notice. It's something that happens within milliseconds. It's not even seconds, milliseconds. So, but you notice it when you now have maybe like thousands of elements. But we don't have that yet, so you will not see any. But there's a better way of handling the stuff. But for now, we don't need that. So instead of you going through all of them, if you store the one that is active to one side, based on the one that is active, those are the one that you just add the stuff. So later what you just do is to change the one that is active. So you don't need to be going through everything yourself. That's the reason we're going to be using framework later on to simplify all this nonsense that we're going to do. Because there's a lot of things you have to do. So instead of you doing all those work, you now use framework to simplify the process.